Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tech Talk, a podcast where Amit and I talk about various technology related topics. Today's topic is a very interesting one because it's lived on by Amit a few weeks ago, just a week ago. We're going to talk about tech in Japan. Amit visited Japan recently, and we were talking after that about all the sort of new or modern technology used in public areas as well as in all walks of life in Japan. And I thought it was very interesting, and hoping that our audience would also find it very interesting to know how things are done more creatively, how tech is used more creatively in Japan, and hope our audience will share how various techs are different in their own countries. We have audience from all over the world, and looking forward for you guys' interaction on this as well. So, Amit, yes, tell us a little bit about your experience and what are we going to cover today?
So, thanks, Rinat. Yes, I had recently been to Japan with my wife and son, and it was a very amazing trip, and it was a very different experience compared to all the other countries that I've been to. And I've been to about 20 countries now. So, I've been to a lot of countries in South America, a few countries in Europe, and in Asia. I think after India, this was my first country outside India. So it was a different experience. And what struck me the most was the use of technology in day-to-day life and how convenient it makes everyone's life. So I thought of covering that. And that's why I recommended this topic, and I'll try to cover that in my newsletter as well. But I thought let's just talk about it because it's a very fascinating country, and I mean, we all know about Japanese technology. I mean, we know about the different tech companies, etc., and we know that it's a technological powerhouse. Of course, China has now overtaken it, but back in the days, it was making lots of video games, Walkmans, and different types of Blu-ray players. We know about Sony, Nintendo, many other companies. So yeah, so it's a very, very interesting country, and I'm excited to talk about it. The thing that I would cover in today's talk would be more about day-to-day life, like what do you see in the airport, what do you see in the hotels, what do you see when you go to a public restaurant or a shopping mall, what do you see in the trains, etc. Because these are the things that I have used on a day-to-day basis while I was there because I was traveling as a tourist. So yeah.
Right, yeah, looking forward to finding out a lot about it actually, because I've also been to many different countries, and most of the countries I've visited are actually in Europe, and most of them were beach holidays, so I didn't actually get to experience the tech or the new ways of using tech in different countries. But it always fascinates me, and it always sort of makes me think that how culture or the weather, all of these things are different in different countries, and how these things affect the innovative ways of using technology. I mean, I know there is some countries which has white roof color, and the reason for that, apparently, and I don't know the source of this information or validity of it, but the reason for that is they collect rainwater, and the white, the coloring of the roof actually reflects the sunlight and kind of purifies the rainwater as it is being collected. So that's a really innovative way of using something very simple and not very much costly, but using sort of renewable resources, etc. So it's always interesting, in different parts of the world, humans have come up with so many different ways of making their lives easier through technology. And yeah, Japan is kind of known for technological innovation. So it's very interesting to know all the different ways they've done it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So, one of the things I want to first say is that the technology that we are used to in Western part of the world, in Western countries, say Americas and Europe, is very different to the technology that we are exposed to in Japan. So, in Western countries, for everything there is an app. So you want to order a taxi, there is an app. You want to check anything, there is an app. Fitness tracking, there is an app. I mean, there is an app for basically everything that you want to do in your life. And most of the startups are actually built around apps. So there is very little hardware innovation. There are few hardware innovations, but it's limited to very few companies. So majority of the innovation lies around software because it's easy to start, easy to scale, and you can ask people to subscribe to your thing, and then you can easily scale it up. Because the beauty of software is that you create it once and you can create multiple copies of it. So you don't have to create it again and again like a car or a bottle or a cup. Most of the innovation that we see in western part of the world is software, because it's easy to build software once and create multiple copies of it. So most of the startup scene is focused around software, and most of the tech startups are all around software. So you see very little hardware innovation. I mean, there are electric car companies and there are few small companies that are doing innovation, but it's very different from the innovation that's done in Japan. The other thing is that the innovation that's driven here are mostly from an individual perspective, and the innovation that's driven in Japan is mostly from a community point of view, like how can I make someone's life easier, etc. So you don't find very fancy, I mean, there are fancy innovations, but it's very convenient innovations, and I mean, I would say it's not on your face, the tech part. So let's start with the airport. So when I landed in the airport, one of the things that was obviously apparent was that it's not as good as, say, the London airport, like the London Heathrow airport. So I was like, wow, okay, I've landed in Japan, but it doesn't look that advanced. Why is that? So I thought, okay, fine, let me just go through the immigration and let me go through the customs, and then maybe I'll find something interesting. So till that time, nothing. I mean, I was not amazed by any of the things that were there. It was just like an ordinary airport. But then I had to change the diapers of my son, so I took him to the restroom, and that's where I saw the first glimpse. So normally in a bathroom door, you will have very few places. I've never actually seen any place in the world where you have sliding doors. So in Japan, you press a button and the door slides in, and you go in and you press a button and the door slides out. So it
But
closes the room. Yeah.
I
So
mean, sorry to interrupt you there, but in London, overground trains, they have sliding door
no, but
bathrooms.
not in the what do you mean, restrooms?
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, so restrooms. So like in a house or in a restaurant or in a convenience store,
But
sliding
in
doors.
inside the train,
No,
remember,
no, not inside a train. I'm talking about. Oh, you're talking about the inside train. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
in London,
That's a sliding door. Yes, but that's not. I mean, not in a building. That's in a train.
Hmm.
So what about the sliding door in airport toilet? What about sliding doors in a convenience store? What about sliding doors in a restaurant? So there are sliding doors almost everywhere. And that was one of the things that struck me. Like if I want to go to a convenience store, there are sliding doors, and it just makes life so easy. I mean, yes, there are sliding doors in Tesco and Sainsbury's, etc., but it's far more different because there the space is limited. So that's why sliding doors are more common than in other parts of the world, because space is very limited, especially in Tokyo. Houses are very small, so they don't have the space to open or close a door. So most of the doors are sliding, and that makes a huge difference. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was the Japanese toilet. So not many people, I'm not sure if many people are aware of it, but Japanese toilets are some of the most advanced toilets, as you might, as I'm not sure if many people know about it, but normally in a toilet seat, you take the seat down, you do your business, you clean yourself, you flush, and then you get up and wash your hands. In a Japanese toilet, to clean, I mean, you do your business and you clean your stuff, but when you're seated, the seats are hot. So it's a heated seat. So it makes very comfortable. Plus, when you want to clean yourself, there's a button on the side. So you press the button, and a small like a pipe will come out from the toilet seat, and then it'll spray some water, and it'll clean your body. And then in order to flush, again there is a button. So there is a button to heat, there is a button to spray the water, there is a button to sometimes even some of the toilets will even throw some air, which will help in drying your body part. So it is very interesting, and those toilets are very common. Like you'll find them in all hotels, most of the restaurants, and most of the malls, and even in trains. So those toilets are very common all across, and it makes your life very convenient. I mean, when you start using an ordinary toilet, you realize like how low tech our toilets seats are.
Right. Okay. That is very interesting. I think the biggest difference from what you're saying is the how common it is in all of these places. I mean, what you described, I have actually experienced that in Zurich when I went to Switzerland.
Okay,
But it was that one toilet
one
that I
toilet,
have.
yeah.
It wasn't very like commonplace everywhere, but
It is commonplace. I mean, all the hotels I went, it was there. Most of the big restaurants, it was there. Shopping malls, it was there. Trains, it was there. So it was very common. In I mean, I come from India, so I went to some Indian restaurants as well. Some of the Indian restaurants also had Japanese toilet. So that was very common, and it's such a simple thing, but it's visible all across in Japan, and it's like a standard. I mean, if you go somewhere in Japan, you expect a Japanese toilet. So and okay, one of the toilets in one of the hotels where we were staying, the moment you sit down, a sound plays. So this could be the sound of a forest or the sound of a rain or something. Basically, it's there to maintain your privacy. So suppose you're doing your business and it makes loud noises, so this sound will muffle that. So there is a sound and it does automatically. So the moment you sit on the seat, it starts playing the sound. The other thing is you get up the seat, it flushes. So you don't even have to press a button. You get up the seat, it flushes the toilet seat. It flushes the toilet. So that was very common, and this was like just when I entered the airport, and then I saw it across different parts of the country, and then that was like really interesting. Then once you get out, you see a lot of vending machines. Now we know vending machines are there, but in Japan every street has vending machine, literally every street. I mean, you go to a park, there is a vending machine in a park. You go to any public place, there is a vending machine. Train stations have vending machines, streets have vending machines, even remote places have vending machines, and those vending machines are serving anything from alcohol, tea, toys, chocolates, any random stuff. So those
how
vending
do
machines,
you how do
sorry,
they do age verification in
no,
alcohol?
they don't do age verification. So the interesting part is that I think the alcohol will be only there in hotels and restaurants, and you'll have to pay some put some coins, etc. But yeah, there is no age verification. I didn't see any age verification. So yeah,
Hmm.
so they
So
were.
just to be in the premises, you probably have to be
Maybe, maybe,
over a
maybe.
certain
Yes.
age.
But most of the places you found vending machines, and they was like giving out all sorts of stuff. And I mean, it was still very basic. I mean, I mean, we still have to give credit to the place where we live, like in London, where vending machines have contactless payments acceptable. Most of the machines had coin payments acceptable, so it was still very cash and coin based, but it was still very quick. Like you press a, you put all the coins for the amount, and then you press the button, and the drink or the chocolate or the crisp or anything that maybe even a toy will quickly fall, and then you can take it. So like a stand-in vending machine, but the vending machines were very common. So Japan has a lot of vending machines. I'm not sure about the exact number. Maybe I will post it in the description of the video, but it has got a huge number of vending machines. And the vending machines are there in most of the streets as well. So like if you're walking through a remote street where there is a temple, where there are no people, you'll still find a vending machine. So it's very common to see in Japan. So then we took a taxi. Taxi was very, I mean, like any other taxi in any part of the world. Not many people know, but Toyota is the biggest company in Japan. It is also one of it is the largest automobile manufacturer in the world. So you'll find a lot of Toyota cars in Japan. And cars in Japan are sometimes very small, from what I could see, because I think of the way their infrastructure is developed, because they don't have a lot of space. So the cars are not as wide bodied as, say, the German cars, but they are very narrow bodied. So they feel a bit squished. So it feels like a very cartoonish kind of a thing. But yeah, the cars are a bit squished. So the next thing is we reach to the hotel. Standard stuff. You get a key, and then you swipe in and you get into the hotel. And standard stuff in hotels. I mean, just the regular Japanese toilets and regular things. But there we are taking a shower in the toilet, in the bathroom, and then once the shower is over, I see the mirror, and the mirror doesn't have any condensation. One part of the mirror doesn't have any condensation on it, because normally when you take a hot shower, the water starts condensing on the mirror, and it makes it very blurry or hazy, and you can't see yourself, so you'll have to wipe the mirror clean. But there was one part of the mirror that was very clean, and then I thought, wow. And it was a very specific part. It was the part just over the basin, and up to a certain height, which is, I think, the average Japanese height, where you would be able to see yourself and comb your hair without actually scraping the surface of the mirror. And that was because when I touched the mirror, there was a heater behind the mirror, and that was very interesting. I was like, wow, there is a heater behind the mirror at the exact part where I'm supposed to see myself and comb my hair once I get out of shower.
This is quite interesting, but at the same time, it makes me think of all the electricity that is being consumed.
Yes,
And I
all the
also,
Japanese toilets are consuming electricity, and they're consuming a lot of they are consuming different types water, and you need extra plumbing for everything. So yes, you're
mm,
right. This is what I was also observing, and I was like, wow. So you are consuming so much electricity, and plus, bathrooms in UK, they don't have plugs. So there are plugs in US toilets, but in UK toilets you don't have any plugs. So normally you have a pull cord, so there is no switch for a light. All the toilets in UK, they have a pull cord to switch on the light and to switch on the exhaust, and there are no plugs. So suppose I want to provide electricity to a Japanese toilet in my bathroom, then I'll have to do extra engineering. So yes, you're right. That was one of the observations I also thought, like, wow, there's a lot of electricity being used.
yeah, not very environment friendly. And also, I saw like a life hack in somewhere in TikTok or YouTube that, if you just wipe your mirror with shaving foam, I think the condensation doesn't occur. I have not tested it, but yeah, makes you think that
Makes you think, yeah, what's the
whether
fuss?
it's
But
worth
I think
the
it's about
heating.
the convenience, right? Like you get out of shower and you don't even have to wipe anything, right? It's already built in. So that was the one of the things that struck me. So after doing everything, getting fresh, going out to a restaurant. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just like wondering whether when is Japan targeting to reach to become carbon neutral
No,
with so much use of
I don't
electricity.
think most countries are. I mean, even if they
No,
are
no, none of the
targeting
countries are
carbon neutral, I don't think they will be like going
anytime
carbon
soon.
neutral. Yeah. So, and I was not worried about the carbon neutral part, because Japan is one of the most cleanest, I mean, countries in the world. I mean, it's even cleaner than Singapore from people I met during the trip. So, I mean, if you're thinking about emissions, they are very low. If you think about cleanliness, they are one of the most cleanest countries in the world. They have the highest rate of recycling in the world, from what I could find, because I could not find any trash anywhere in public or in other remote parts of the country. So, in terms of, I think, if you're worried about the carbon neutral part, I think Western countries have far more
Yeah,
things to
no,
focus on.
I was just thinking because of the high
Electricity
electricity
usage,
usage.
yes. But
But
the electricity usage, if you think about that, then I mean, let's think for a second. They're just 100 million, 110 million people, so they are not a lot of people who are consuming electricity. So even though maybe the per capita consumption might be high, but so I don't think that the energy consumption by the whole country. I mean, it will be still high because it's a developed country. I mean, but I'm guessing that it's not a lot compared to say America or say other Asian countries. But yes, but another thing to bear in mind is Japanese population is not. I mean, it's one third of the population is in Tokyo because most of Japan is hilly. So the flattest part of Japan is actually around Tokyo, but of course Tokyo is also very earthquake prone. So it's one of the densest cities in the world. The Greater Tokyo has about 40 million population, and it's the most populated city in the world. And with all that, um, the rest of the Japan is very spread out, and there are not a lot of people like outside. I mean, there are people outside Tokyo, but they're spread out, so it doesn't feel that populated. And whatever I'm describing are visible across, say, Kyoto, Osaka, Hiroshima. So most of the other tier 2 cities, which are not maybe as popular as Tokyo, also have the same technology. So it's like homogeneous. So it's not like you see the technology only in one part of the country, but these things are standard everywhere. So you find these across. The other thing is, like in UK, when a tourist comes, they normally get a Oyster card so that they can travel. For the Oyster card, you normally have to go to a shop and pick it up, and you'll have to pay some money. They'll take a deposit, £5, and they'll give you the card. In Tokyo, there are machines that generate the card and they give it out to you. So you don't actually have to go to a shop, the machine does it for you. So again, one of the things that makes it convenient is that there are instructions and there is a machine. I don't have to go and talk to someone. Plus, even if there is no one at the office or there is no shop where I have to actually explain myself, I can still understand and get a ticket, get a card, and just pay the amount, and I can quickly start using the public transport system. So that again makes your life very convenient. Plus, compared to Oyster card, where it's charged on a trip basis, and you need to have a certain amount of balance, I think, and we don't know what balance it is currently on our card based on how much trip we have made. In Japan, what happens is between every entry and exit, they'll show the balance. So all the entry gates and exit gates will show the balance of on the card. And that card which we were using can also be used at convenience stores, in buses, in trams, in even in some restaurants. It's similar. It's so one of the things that struck me was why are they not using contactless cards like a contactless debit card or a credit card like we do in the UK, because we use contactless phones and we use contactless everywhere from uh, transport systems to coffee machines. But in Japan, it was more about the cards are like prepaid cards, so where you top up the cash on the card and then you use it. So this was a bit I think it was a bit behind UK, but still, because I could get a card from the machine, I felt that it was much more convenient because then I didn't have to talk to anyone.
Yeah, it's heaven for introverts. It
Yeah,
looks like
exactly. And
you don't have
plus,
to
you don't
talk
have to like
small talk.
overcoming the language barrier, etc. I think it's such a hassle, right? Because you have to explain yourself, what you need it for, etc., etc. Plus, of
Hmm.
course, no one explains this to you, but because we had already did some Google research, so we knew that these cards exist, and then we could use it. The other good thing was that you could top up these cards not just at stations where you had the machines, but also at convenience stores like 7-Eleven, and there were other stores where you could just go and top it up, which was again very convenient, like your Oyster card.
Yeah, I was just going to say that not to defend London,
No, no,
but
no, no.
you
Exactly,
can top up
exactly.
anyway.
Not to
Yeah,
defend like London, but again here again,
yeah.
this is very interesting. So in London, when you want to top up your Oyster card, you tap it over kind of a machine, and then it tops up your card, and then you get a receipt like how much cash is there on your card. In Japan, there is a machine, and it's a payment machine, and it'll accept all sorts of cards. It'll have a display system. You can see exactly what is your balance, and you can select what how much you want to pay. So you don't even have to ask the shopkeeper to select it for you. You select it on the touch screen in the display, saying, "I want to top for 1000 or 2000 yen." I put all the coins in the machine or the cash, and then I top it up. So that was again very convenient where I didn't have to interact. I just had to say I want to top up this card, and they would say, okay, check balance, and then how much cash you select, and then you enter it. So this was again very convenient where even though I have to use it at a convenience store, I was still interacting more with a machine than with a person. So that was again the convenience part of like the non-interaction part. The other part was in trains. So, I mean, Japan is famous for the bullet trains. So the bullet trains, they look very fancy, but I mean, if you are in the UK and if you're traveled using Virgin trains between, say, London and Scotland, then those are pretty fast. But of course, the Shinkansen are much faster, which are the bullet trains in Japanese. They're much faster. And one of the things that struck me most was the seats are always facing in the direction of the movement of the train. So whichever direction the train is going, the seats are always facing in that direction, and not just one seat, all seats. So this was again very interesting, and then I saw like how they do it. So this is not so this is again a hardware innovation. So they have a lever and they turn the seat. So at the destination and at the source, they clean the trains. So there's a lady or a person. They get on the train. They pick up all the rubbish, which is very rare to find actually, and then they clean all the seats. They wipe everything, and they turn all the seats. So basically, all the seats are turned for every car or the carriage in like split seconds. And that was again very interesting because you always want to face the direction in which the train is moving so you could see the scenery pass by. You don't want to face the opposite direction. And some of the trains have that, but in Japan you could do that very easily. And it's not just that those people could do it; you could do it by yourself because the lever was right there. Just press it and it'll turn.
So yeah, the benefit is if you are in a large group, you can all sit facing each other
In
in a
if you want to, yes.
right,
Uh,
right, right. I mean,
so
and everything else is also in London. I mean, apart from the rotating seat part,
rotating seats
there
part,
is
yes, the
someone
bullet,
is
the
coming.
yes, the Virgin trains, it is very similar. So Shinkansen is maybe much more faster, but it gives you the same experience. But again,
Right.
in the Shinkansen, in the Shinkansen as well, what I found was the toilets were again very different. There was a men's urinal. So normally you don't find a urinal in a train. So there was a urinal, proper urinal, a full-size urinal in a train. There was a powder room. There was a baby changing room, which is standard where if it's a handicapped or a disabled toilet, but then it was very different because it was segregated. So men's urinal is separate. You could quickly go in, come out, so you don't have to engage the other toilets. So there is a separate toilet for ladies. There is a powder room. So if in case you want to wash your hands or etc., use the powder room or the wash basin outside. So you don't have to keep the toilet occupied. And then all the toilets had sliding doors, which was again very convenient. So some of the things that these are small things, but then they slowly start adding up and start making your life convenient. London is there, but London I think is still a bit behind in some of the things because I mean there's still a bit of human interaction needed for some of the things. Whereas in Japan, I had very few human interaction because I could manage without actually talking to someone, and I think
Yeah,
that's the difference.
yeah, I think obviously not having been there and just,
Yes.
listening to your experience, I can't fully fathom the
Maybe
difference in
yes, yes,
technology.
yes.
But again, when you were saying that see the balance of your Oyster card or similar in between each trips. In London as well, they do show in some of the stations
Some of the
in the
stations
area, they
they
do
they
show it,
show a negative
but it's
balance or
not.
something. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's not all of the stations
All
and
of the
all.
stations
So I
exactly.
think the degree to which technology is implemented and I think one of the I think the biggest positive in this sense is the public spending. I guess the government spent on technology for public use a lot more than they have in London. That's the main sort of difference. What I've kind of gathered so far. Obviously, it will
But
probably change.
again, the thing is, most of the tech that we see is only in London. I mean, if you go outside London, the technology that the technology that is being used is less and less. So if you go
Yes,
outside London, the usage of technology starts reducing. But if you go outside Tokyo, which is the capital city, the usage of technology doesn't decrease.
exactly.
So
That's
that is
that.
again a very different experience, because you think that okay, if I go to some place like Hiroshima, which is a very small city compared to Tokyo, which is like you can literally, I mean, you can do the whole city on a bike. It's that small. But if you find that a similar level of technology and the experience is there, then it makes your life so much convenient. Even in buses, I didn't have to like do much. So there was a separate, just like in London, you have an entry system and an exit system. You have Oyster cards, but here again you had machines, and the drivers didn't have to check anything. Tap in, go, and tap out, go, and everything gets deducted. And so this again was very interesting, because if you go outside London, maybe not all buses have contactless. Only in London, the buses are now contactless, so they don't accept
That is
cash. So this is something that was there even in Hiroshima, which is much much smaller,
right.
and
Yeah.
and
No,
and
that's
and
absolutely.
and
That's
that is the
exactly what I
level
was
of
saying.
the penetration of technology. So it's not like it's just in a big city. So
Yes. Yes.
that is what the traveling bit showed me, like okay, wow, this is interesting. The other part
Mm.
is going to a restaurant. So again, Tokyo, very densely populated and very busy. People don't have time, and most of the restaurants are very busy. Because people are so overworked, they tend to eat out a lot, and because they tend to eat out a lot, there are a lot of restaurants. And the best thing about Japan is all the street food restaurants or any public restaurants are very hygienic and very safe. So you can be assured that no matter where you eat, you will not fall sick, which is a very good thing. I mean, I can't say that about London, but I can definitely say that about Japan, because I did try a lot of other street foods. Of course, I'm vegan. I didn't try a lot of meat stuff, but I checked with the local people and some of the guides, and they said yes, it is very safe. So you don't have to worry about eating out. And in Japan, there is a culture of eating out. So some of the restaurants which are very tiny, and even in London you have very tiny restaurants. So if you go to central London, there are just a restaurant which is like in a box, just a long space, and there is a restaurant, and they have long queues. In Japan, what they do is they have machines outside, so you select your order on the machine, and you make the payment in the machine, and then you get a token, and then you just give it inside. Once a seat is available, you go in, sit, the order comes to your table, you quickly finish your business, and then you leave. So you don't have to interact with the waiter at the restaurant. So to explain like what you want, what you don't want, you don't have to wait for the waiter to come and ask you for your bill, and they already know what you want, so they can easily start preparing the food even before the seat is vacant. So you're not kept waiting for a very long time. So the turnaround time is much quicker, and it's a very simple thing. Most of the places, most of the restaurants which are very busy or which want to rotate the people quickly can utilize this simple piece of technology. And it's like a vending machine or like a ticket buying machine, but instead of buying a ticket, you're buying a menu item. And this was again so convenient because I was able to use it across multiple restaurants, and I was like, wow, this is so convenient. I don't even have to talk to someone.
Maybe not a tech related question, but what is the tip culture
No
in
tips, no tips. So that's
right?
again
Yeah.
a good thing. So Japan, they don't accept. I
Everyone's
mean,
well paid.
yeah,
So,
you just pay. There is maybe a tax included, maybe a service charge, but everything is included. So there is no tip culture. So that's another thing that I noticed.
right. The staff are paid fairly.
So one of the things in Japan is that the crime rate is very low. And the reason for that, I mean, one of the reasons or one of the theories which one of the guides told us was that difference between the rich and poor is very less. So I could go out for a run at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. because I was jet lagged. I could not sleep. So I was able to go out for a run and feel very safe in the middle of the night in Tokyo on a weekend, and it was still very safe. So this speaks a lot about the culture of Japan. Like, and it's not just in Tokyo. I tried to run in Hiroshima and many other cities, and it was perfectly safe, clean, safe, and you don't have to worry. And one of the reasons is that, of course, the wealth is distributed across the society much better compared to, say, UK or even the Americas. So that again stood out to me quite a lot, and which was again very, very interesting. So, I mean, we talked about restaurants and we talked about this. We talked about public toilets and the Shinkansen. Uh, what else? The other things that I notice is the infrastructure in Tokyo. So Tokyo is a very earthquake-prone region, in one of the most earthquake-prone regions in the world. The last major earthquake happened in Japan in 2011 when the Fukushima nuclear disaster happened, and despite of all that, Tokyo is expanding. Despite knowing that it's prone to earthquake, it is expanding and it is building on top of other things. So it's creating man-made artificial islands, just like you see in the Emirates, or maybe in Singapore, or other parts of the world where you have very small landmass. So you try to build out in the sea or the ocean. So Tokyo has done that. Tokyo is trying to build different types of networks, railway networks. So one of the most interesting rides I had in Tokyo was a train. It looked like a train, but it was not running on tracks. It was running on road, and it didn't have wheels.
Oh, right.
I mean, it had wheels, but they were rubber wheels, like a car. So a
Wow.
car
Okay.
wheel running on a road like a train, like
But
a
what makes it like a train? If it, I mean, and why would you not call it a bus?
like it's like a DLR.
DL. Right. Okay.
So
So
there's no driver,
there is no driver. Okay, and it
or
has multiple carriages.
completely autonomous. It has its own track, so it's above the ground, just like a DLR. It's above the ground. It's not at the ground level. The stations
Mhm.
are there. So yes, it's not a
Okay. So
bus.
there.
So, and it's not like one box. It's like five or six boxes.
So there are multiple carriages chained
Exactly,
together with.
exactly. And they
Right.
are
Right.
guided, of course. They are guided, of course, from the sides. So instead of on the bottom, they are guided from the sides. So normally a train is guided based by the tracks, but here the train, or whatever, I don't know what to call it, a bus car or bus train, it's guided by the sides. The enclosure in which it is going through,
Okay. So it's always sort of enclosed by
by two
two
sides.
two
I,
sides.
I,
Okay.
I
Do they not
thought
have
so.
wheels on the side?
I thought so. But then there was a gap when you are changing from when you reach the destination, you have to go on the other side, and there is a gap. And that time there is no guide rail on the side on one side. So there is just guide rail on one side. On the other side, there is no guide rail. So this was again very interesting. Like, and I was trying to figure out, because I'm a mechanical engineer. I was like, okay, where is the power coming from? Who is driving it? Where is the track? I don't see any track. And then I told my wife, see, look, there are wheels. There are actually like bus wheels on this train. And it was very interesting. And it was going, and it is not part of the Tokyo Metro. So again, Japan has different types of railway systems. So there is a metro system, there is an overground system, just like in London. There is a bullet train, which is like the national rail, and then you have these private train operators, and there was also a monorail. So monorail was I mean, it's very similar to the some of the monorails, say, which are connected to the airport. So this monorail also connected to the airports, and this monorail was just again one single track, and the train and all the carriages had were enclosing the track. So they enclosed the track so they could go a bit wobbly, and they could go on this monorail from one destination to another, and mostly it was connected to the airport, the Haneda airport, which is closest to the Tokyo city. There was another airport, Narita, but that you have to take a taxi. You can take a train, but that's a different train. So I mean, this infrastructure was again very different, because I was thinking Tokyo earthquake prone. Tokyo has been burned down couple of times. It has been rebuilt like 3 or 4 times already, and yet they are building skyscrapers, they are building all these different types of infrastructure. So imagine an earthquake coming to London, and then what happens to all the infrastructure. So they are already prepared for all that, and they are much ahead in terms of construction, from what I could make out, because every building has to survive the earthquakes. So they are now slowly getting rid of the old wooden houses and going towards all concrete, so that it meets the regulation of the fire and safety. So this was again very fascinating. Like, okay, you are building so much infrastructure in such a small, densely populated region, and you could not see. I mean, there was construction happening when we went to Shibuya Crossing. There was construction happening, but you could not inhale any dust. You could not hear a lot of loud noises. It was just that, yes, you know, because it's covered, so you know there's a construction happening, but it was not disturbing people. So people were just going on and doing their day-to-day activities, and it was so again very pleasant, because again, as I mentioned, Japan is very very clean. So when you see constructions happening, I mean, yes, of course, those parts of the city, they can become very crowded, and the pedestrian paths and etc. But here it was like just so remarkable. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the bits that I touched upon when I went to Japan. And I wanted to share it with everyone. There were, of course, many other things, but these are some of the high level things which fascinated me, which I could observe. Because, see, it's not about technology through just an app. It's how about making technology through hardware and making a life much more easier. So that's what I found very fascinating in Japan.
Wow, no, this is really interesting and fascinating, as you just said, to hear about it. And I definitely do want to go visit there one day to sort of experience it myself. A lot of the times I do realize that, hearing the stories are much more different than being there
Yes,
by yourself.
yes.
So yes, I mean, it's a very tourist friendly country as far as I gathered from what you just said. So, invitation to all the audience, if it suits your sort of interest, then definitely go visit Japan. We're not sponsored by Japan Tourism, but it seems like an amazing experience to do this experience of visiting Japan.
I
Not
think
just
one of the things stood out for me was because I went as a parent with a 1 year old son. So, what stood out to me was that, of course, it is very advanced, but it felt very safe. And I think
right.
that is
Yeah.
very important. If you can go out with your son and feel safe and not threatened, people are very polite and it's clean. So it means your son is not inhaling a lot of the car emissions, etc. Most of the cars, by the way, were hybrid. So you could not
Mm,
find a lot of gasoline. They were not making a lot of noises. So yes, you're right. The electric consumption is quite high. But again, that's how it is, and that's how they've maintained their air very clean, even in a very densely populated region like Tokyo.
right. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you very much, Amit, for giving us this insight of Japan from the eyes of a tech person. So I hope all the audience who are also must be interested in tech as much as we are and would be interested to and enjoyed this talk about tech in a particular country. If we also, again, this has actually been a good topic. So next time, whenever we visit any other countries, we'll make sure to look through the lenses of tech so we can share it with all of you. And yeah, audience, if you guys have any suggestion that we should visit this country or that country, to understand the different ways innovation has taken place in different areas. It could even be a third world country. I've seen a lot of sort of innovative ways of doing things, like, for example, water pump without any sort of electric or any kind of mechanical power source, etc. So there are all kinds of interesting stuff happening in all geographic location, and it's important, I think, not just amusing, but it's also important to know about all of these. As a result of that, we can sort of permutate and combine different ideas to innovate even further. So definitely a eye-opening and new perspective on a country, and very much interested and sort of entertained with your description, Amit. Thank you very much, audience. Hopefully, you guys have also enjoyed, and please feel free to contact us for anything, feedback, or suggestions of topic. We look forward to hearing from you. Hope to see you guys again next week. With that, we can end the episode here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.